What do you think it has for us today?
Are we going to go in order of every single one, or are we going to hop around?
Well, I think
I kind of flicked through it, and I felt like the first three questions were
eerily
so
the
similar.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick a number between 10 and 20.
15.
Page 15. Oh, that's the first question. That's tough.
That's tough.
Okay.
Hold on. So last week we kind of like went through our early childhood.
Mm-hmm.
You're afraid of your biggest achievement as a teenager,
Yeah,
aren't you?
apparently.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll just try and tackle two of them and then we can move on. I think we need to
Okay.
move in order. I think the 15 back
Okay.
to the start is kind of
Yeah.
like snakes and ladders. Start
Yeah,
again,
true. Foreshadowing.
right? Like you got to walk before you can run.
Yeah.
What was the biggest achievement of mine as a teenager? I'd probably say might have to do with snowboarding
Okay.
for me. Like
Yeah.
somehow tied to snowboarding in there.
I remember you guys building that huge snow jump in the backyard and just taking the ATV
Yeah.
and just hauling homeboy up there.
Yeah. One of the biggest would definitely be doing a backside rodeo behind the quad was for sure off our backyard
Okay.
jump. That was pretty cool.
What's a backside rodeo entail?
Kind of like a backflip with a 180
Okay.
turning backside on your snowboard. Kind of like happens all at once.
Yeah. Kind of like a gainer. Reversed? No, that's front foot backwards.
Yeah, no, I don't think the gainer motion is. I guess you're going forwards but doing a backflip, but I feel like that's always
The
how
rotation
it is. Yeah,
changes.
no, I think we're cool.
Okay.
That might be it. I think maybe like I don't know if there's an academics question in here, which would be interesting to get to. But I do think there was a couple years in like junior high and ninth grade. I think I applied myself because I wanted to try and get in the smarter classes instead of the other ones that aren't necessarily just they're not as important, I guess, in life. Up in Canada, you know, it's like you want to be in English 30, Math 30, those ones probably for the super keeners, like the IB program. But yeah, just wanted to be in the regular classes, so I applied myself, got good grades. That was one.
Yeah.
Maybe playing football on a whim was also an interesting
Yeah.
little accomplishment.
Yeah.
We were in like comm tech class making t-shirts and then it was right next to you went to the same high school, so yeah, right next to the locker room, and one of the guys in my class played football and he was like, yo, like you guys should come play football. And so I went over to my buddy Nick's house after school, said, hey guys, like I'm going back to the school to play football, I think you guys should come, right?
Sick.
Like I think we should all do this and like play football. So I think 3 of them came. Sean,
Nice.
Adam, and Mixu. We all went down and we decided to play football, and it actually like was a life-changing journey. Like I've never
100%.
football is a sport that like is going to war with your brothers, right? Like it has that mentality because there's a lot of danger out there, obviously, but I feel as far as just the team vibe,
Yeah.
it's one of the greatest team sports.
100%.
So
Yeah.
those are mine.
I'd say I'd have to agree with that. I think me and my friends had a similar experience where I skipped out on high school for the first 2 weeks of it.
Yeah.
I hid away in Arizona, and then when I came home, I faked sick for a few extra days because I didn't want to go to Facey. Scared of the people that used to bully me that went there. So I wanted to go to Sal, but I was also scared to go there because I didn't know anybody there. And yeah, some random kid that I'd met at like a birthday party in elementary school recognized me last period of the day math class. He was like, hey, have you ever played football before? No, never. And he was like, hey, come down to the locker room after school with me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, for what? Like, so I don't even know the word. I didn't know what he was doing. Brings me down there. He basically signed me up, got the form, started asking me all the questions. And then, just 3 years of my life, I think. Some of the best friends I have, made them there. Evo and Eddie.
Yeah.
You know, Eddie and I's rivalry initially started on the gridiron.
Yeah.
I think there was really good coaches in there too, like Coach Brock that you played with.
Yeah.
He was my DB's coach and huge impact on me. Coach Cam all those years.
Yeah.
Huge impact on like turning me into a man from a boy, right?
I would say even like part of what I would say one of your greatest accomplishments is even in that period, like you didn't play all the time.
Yeah.
Right? But like you maintained enthusiasm.
I was
in
hyped
a team
constantly.
guy. Like you were for sure a team guy. I don't think you ever lost enthusiasm for that the entire time.
100%.
Yeah, and I think football's a crazy sport because like you beat each other up in practice, and I think especially when I was there, you weren't too far behind, but like we beat the shit out of our friends in practice, like straight up. Like I don't know how many concussions were passed around between us. Like I don't know. That's cool. Okay.
I think you had 3 different ones. I think probably my academic one was in grade 9. We had this social project, and it was to create a commercial or an advertisement for a product or a service. And that was the time I was like getting into cameras. Got my first GoPro, got the iPad, so I was learning to edit a little bit. And I remade like the Jordan Belfort commercial from The Wolf of Wall Street.
I remember this.
And I remember I went dead last in the class when we were presenting. And everyone went, and it was just kind of like a shot on iPhone, almost like a Snapchat video. Everybody else's, like, you know, selfie. And I'd like actually produced mine. Like
I think I might have helped you film part of it in Arizona.
I remember being on the longboard with the camera in my hand and just rolling by the house as slow as I could, trying to make a steady cam out of myself. And then when mine came on, it felt like an actual commercial. And like, I remember everybody in the class was laughing so hard. Like all my friends, as soon as it was over, like our whole row of us, we sat in a line. All my boys were clapping, like got me really hyped for it. And my teacher was like, for the first time in my entire life, I had a teacher be like, I'm actually impressed with this. And then I think I got like a 92 or a 93 on it. And that was like one of the highest marks I got through all of school. Yeah.
That's cool. And now look at what you're doing. It might be some foreshadowing.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're supposed to say, how did you achieve this, I guess? So.
I think the football one was just kind of not acting on my emotions, because I think like had I not been kind of forced into it by this Alex dude in a quick amount of time without really processing it, I would have psyched myself out of it. I would have been like, I don't know any of these guys, never played ball before,
And before
scared to get hit.
Before you know it, you got shoulder pads on and a helmet when you go in that room, and you're like, oh, okay. Like,
it's one of the first things they do. They give you the paper, name, parents, contact, boom, slap some shoulder pads on you. They're pumping the helmet up already, and you're like half dressed in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it works. And it's a great journey for sure.
I think the social class one, I remember watching a lot of YouTube videos on how to make a YouTube video. And then I think I rewatched that scene probably 15, 20 times at least, like pausing, writing down what the last line, because I didn't have like annotation on the laptop or anything. So I was writing it out by hand and then kind of adapting the script to be grade 9, you know,
friendly.
Junior high friendly. Yeah.
That reminds me of an interesting time when we were in 6th grade. We used to have a spelling test, and I think it was if less than 3 people got less than 80% on the test, then we'd get to have a movie day the next Friday.
Nice.
And I remember I was out of town, we went to like a funeral or something, and came back, and I was the last person to write the test, and the teacher's like, it all hangs on you. Like the class is waiting. And I think it was like skiing was on it, and I really like phonetic. That was where it all hung up on, and I got it right.
Sick.
They said, okay, now that we're doing movie night, you get to pick the movie, and I brought in Night at the Roxbury.
Sick.
To watch with a bunch of 6th graders.
Yeah.
But I do remember there was a scene that was quite inappropriate, and I just remember my teacher like yelling out, Jackson. Straight up like Principal Skinner or whoever
Yeah.
the superintendent was, like Skinner. Yeah, it's burned into my head. Anyway, any other ways that you achieved these things?
I think kind of to loop back around, I don't know if necessarily I have another thing to add about how I achieved it, but I think another thing that I felt accomplished by was when I was about 14 years old, something like that, went into this car dealership. And I was like, at that time, that was when I decided I want to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, I'm going to make $1 billion as a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And I went into this dealership and like completely sold myself to the guy as a McLaren P1 prospective buyer.
Yeah.
And I got this dude Grandpa took me down to the McLaren dealership, and I got this dude to let me sit in all the cars. And I was like, so when I spec mine out, what can I do for this carbon trim? What kind of options can I do? I'm like, yeah, I think maybe a month later, we went to a Rolls-Royce dealership and I did the same thing. And then I came home and I was at the car show here, and they had this like back room for Ferrari of Alberta. And I saw the salesman there, and there's this huge crowd of people. I don't even really remember how I did it, but I got his attention and he came over to me and started talking to me. In this huge crowd of people in there. And next thing I knew, he was lifting open the red velvet rope and walked me back there. And I actually found this picture the other day. This started my love for a specific type of car, which is like a Grand Tourer that has a long front hood and you basically sit on the rear axle of it. And he got me in this Ferrari F12. And this was one of the last times I saw my dad, but he took that photo of me sitting in it, just chatting up the guy. And I think that those few experiences back to back to back, they kind of gave me a little bit of that salesmanship mentality, the feeling that, you know, I'm 14 years old, I'm having these conversations with these big cats in the auto industry. You know, I feel like I could talk to anybody, you know. You put me in front of Warren Buffett right now, and I think I could, you know, have a composed conversation with him.
I could chop it up.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that. I didn't really talk about how I achieved my things, but I think the snowboarding stuff was, I think it all just comes down to a mind-body connection. You know, like I think I have a pretty good coordination, connection to the body, which allowed me to do that, right? It just like I could see it and kind of understand how my body needed to react in order to do something like that. And then you just have to take a couple spills, right? Because usually you lack confidence early, and then after a few times you're like, okay, that's I can do that. Yeah, and then I guess in school it was just like I applied myself to it, right? Where I think
Locked in.
Early on in school, I feel like I was always just raging entrepreneur inside of me was bubbling, and I thought school was going to prepare the way for me. And I think early I was like, wait, this is what we're doing? I didn't think this was what it was about, right?
Yeah.
So they lost me for a bit, but it was nice to know that if I applied myself, I could do some things, I think. Yeah.
It's interesting, that feeling in school, because I definitely felt that, but I remember like 5th grade sitting there in social studies class, and I was like, this is not what the world's about. Like, I'd been reading Grandpa's like World War II books in the basement and stuff.
Yeah.
We got that biography of 9/11, right?
Yeah.
And I was reading all this stuff at like a pretty young age and like kind of grasping geopolitics a little bit. And then as we were sitting there like learning about the fur trade, I was like, what does this have to do with the world? And I lost it for too long, that it took until I was in college to like really be like, okay, this is something worth learning. Like, it's important to learn these things. And by that point, I felt like I had to work extra hard because I was falling behind of everybody. Because all those years of junior high and high school, I was just like, I know better than all you teachers. Like, you guys are just teachers. You don't know what you're talking about, man. That I just felt like I was years behind. But I think that worked out in the end, that like college did pretty well.
Just a late bloomer.
Yeah.
I see you. I think that covers it for today.
Safe.
Tomorrow or next time, we get to look at what our biggest achievement in our career is.
Interesting.
Try and remember that. Come
Yeah.
prepared.
Yeah, I'll try and prepare.
Today's a
some
good
ideas.
day for your achievements in your career.
Yeah, amen. Today was a solid day.
We'll have to come back and find out later, though.
Yeah, amen.
Okay.
Until next time.